Welcome to another episode of the Indie Game Preview. In today's vid, we're going to focus on a tactical trading card game known as Faeria. Basically, it's the combination of a board game and a trading card game, so think Magic the Gathering comboed with the Chinese board game Go. Now, I know a lot of people aren't going to watch this whole video, so before we get started, I will explain some of the major mechanics and differences found in Faeria versus your typical trading card game. The most obvious is that Faeria loves tactics and hates RNG, random number generators. So, for instance, there are no cards in Faeria that say deal 2 damage to a random creature or flip a coin, if heads draw a card, if tails take 5 damage. In short, you're not going to find RNG in Faeria. The other elephant in the room is the special resource that's used by all the most powerful cards. This same resource is something that you have to collect from the spawn points found across the map manually. You have to basically send your creatures to go collect it. It's not going to come to you naturally. So this prevents mindless spam, or what I like to call the God card syndrome, where in normal card games you win by default by simply having more God cards in your deck than your opponent. So if you hate random number generators, RNG, and you're tired of getting beaten by people that simply have more money or time to collect, more God cards than you, then you'll definitely enjoy playing Faeria. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's get started. Alright, let's go ahead and pause the game right here and do a quick board breakdown. In the top half of the screen, you'll notice the player profiles. You're on the left, and your opponent is on the right. In the bottom half of the screen, your action palette is on the left, and your day-night cycle is on the right. Let's take a closer look at each of these. If we zoom in on your player profile, you'll see a banner with your name, ladder ranking points, and account level. Below that, you've got your discard pile, how many cards are left in your deck, how many cards are currently in your hand, and what appears to be a 20-minute match timer. Basically, both players start with a minimum of 40 cards in their deck and get 20 minutes each to win the match. This means that a match can't exceed 40 minutes in length. Right next to the match timer, you've got these 3 little circles. The first is your action points, the next is your gold count, and the last one is your Faeria. Basically, action points are used to draw cards, collect gold, and build land. You can find these options down here in your action palette. Of course, there are a few unique restrictions. For instance, drawing cards. Unlike in other card games, you don't get a free card draw each turn, so if you want to draw a card, you have to spend at least 1 action point. The neat thing about this is that there's no limit to how many action points you can use to draw cards. So if you've got 3 action points, you can use each and every one of them to draw 3 new cards. Just keep in mind that there is a 7-card hand size limit. The next thing you can buy is gold. It also costs 1 action point for 1 gold. And just like drawing cards, there's no limit on how much gold you can collect each turn. The rest of your options involve buying and building land. You've got your basic land and 4 advanced land types. You can build 1 of each land type per turn. The basic land is playable next to any of your existing land, and the advanced land types have to be played on a basic land. Sometimes you'll even need a specific number of these advanced land types on the field and under your control to summon creatures or play spells. To get a better understanding of that, let's take a look at the card anatomy. As you can see, this creature requires 2 lakes to be on the field before you can play it. The other costs here are gold and Faeria. Of course, we already know that each turn you get 1 gold for free, and you can even trade action points for more. But what about Faeria? Well, Faeria is the special resource that only spawns on the battlefield. In other words, that's the thing you have to go out and collect manually from one of these 4 spawn points. Each of these nodes can hold up to 3 orbs of Faeria at a time, and they work in conjunction with the day-night cycle, which is over here, to spawn more. Basically, at the end of each player's turn, the cycle rotates to the next time of day. Upon a full rotation from day to night to day again, one orb of Faeria will spawn at each of the 4 nodes. Okay, so enough talking, let's see some of the stuff in action. First, I'm going to end my turn. See how the day shifts to the afternoon? And when my opponent ends his turn, it's now nighttime. Alright, let's build some land. Now we'll create a forest on that land. Any action points I didn't spend are converted into gold, and now, since it's daytime again, more Faeria spawns on the board. Let's skip ahead a little bit and create a mountain so I can play my Throw a Miner. This mob has a special effect that I can use each turn to collect an extra gold, if he's sitting on a mountain tile. Right there, my opponent used his creature to collect 3 Faeria from that node. Guess I should probably do the same. But first, I'll explain that little green lightning bolt on my creature. That's the energy your creature gets at the beginning of each turn. He can use it to move, attack, or activate a special ability. Anywho, let's collect that Faeria. Okay, so I hope that footage helped explain the day-night cycle and how land is used in conjunction with gold and Faeria to summon creatures. As for the Faeria nodes themselves, try to treat them like capturable battle objectives, and keep them away from your opponent. The less Faeria he has, the less likelihood he'll actually be able to play all those powerful cards in his hand. Speaking of which, let's talk about victory conditions. There are 2 ways to win a match. You either drop your opponent's life points to 0 and destroy his orb, or your opponent runs his 20-minute match timer out before you do. Now, of course, you may be thinking, what happens if I run out of cards? Well, since you have to use action points to draw cards, it isn't mandatory, meaning you can't really lose just by running out of cards. As long as you have cards in your hand or creatures on the field, then you can still win. With that in mind, there's another cool feature in Faeria that promotes a little bit of extra strategy each match, beyond just winning. It's called per-match achievements. Okay, I don't really know if that's what they're actually called, but it sounds good. Basically, each match you get a bunch of little achievements. They're kind of hidden, but if you complete them, then at the end of the match you get bonus currency. These aren't like one-time things either, you know, they're not to be confused with your normal achievements that are bound to your account. These are per match. So while I don't have an official list of them, I know that when I played in beta, a few of them revolved around killing a specific number of enemy creatures or collecting above average amounts of gold or Faeria in a single turn. This means that even if you lose a match, you could potentially walk away with almost as much, if not more, in-game currency than the winner did. Theoretically. Neat, huh? Oh, and the in-game currency in Faeria is called Memoria. It's what you'll be using to buy packs of cards in the store and whatnot, which the store is called the Memorium. Actually, let's go ahead and head on over there. Alright, here we go. So, right away, I'm sure you guys recognize the setup. You've got 4 starter decks at the top, and a whole bunch of boosters at the bottom. The interesting thing about these is that none of the starter decks have any uncommons, rares, or legendaries in them. They're full of nothing but commons, hence why they're priced at 10 Memoria each. This allows you to get all the starter decks dirt cheap, so you can experiment. The booster packs, however, range from 25 Memoria to 1,000. Let's take a look at these. The Book of Awakening has 8 commons and 1 uncommon. The Book of Revelation has a mix of 8 common and uncommon cards along with 1 exceptional. The Book of Wisdom has a mix of 8 common, uncommon, and exceptional cards along with 1 rare. And finally, the Book of Illumination has a mix of 8 common, uncommon, exceptional, and rare cards along with 1 legendary. Now, of course, I'm sure this is really confusing. You're thinking, what's the difference between an exceptional and a rare, or, an exceptional and a legendary? So let's jump over to the library and take a look at all the different types of cards you can actually get from these booster packs. Okay, first, let's take a look at the search functions. At the bottom, you have your standard filters, things like faction colors, card type, and rarity. In the main box, you can sort by name, type, gold, Faeria, and land cost, along with power or rarity. You can even filter by using the search bar. Anywho, let's take a look at the different card types. You've got creatures, structures, events, and fate. Honestly, I've never come across a fate card, so I can't say much about those. However, each of the other card types can have special attributes. Simple things like ranged attack, where you can attack 1 to 2 tiles away. Then there's things like accumulator that allows your creature or structure to stockpile energy over the course of a few turns. That way, you have more options when you actually do elect to use them. Check it out. For our next ability, we have Conquest. If this guy steps foot in enemy land, he claims it for you. So now it's your land. Now let's say you can't capture a land because it's too far away. The next ability on our list is Move Land. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I'll show it to you anyways. For this next one, we'll cover 2 abilities. First is Flying. Any creature with this ability doesn't require land to stand on, so he can get to places normal mobs can't. Along with that, he also has the Charge 2 ability. This means that he can move 2 tiles at the same time in one direction. Here, I'll show you. Now what game would be complete without haste mobs? That's right, Faeria also has these speedy little guys that can attack on the same turn they're summoned. Next up is Haunt. If this creature deals damage to an enemy creature, your opponent's orb takes equal damage. Now, for anyone that's played League of Legends or pretty much any other MOBA, you'll know what I mean when I say that mobility is king. So for this next one, we have Jump. Instead of being able to move just 1 tile, you can move 2. Now let's say you're trying to protect your creatures or a valuable structure. How do you do that? Well, in Faeria you have this little guy with Radiate. It deals 1 damage to any creatures next to it. And finally, we have Aquatic. This is very similar to Flying with a catch. If your creature has this ability, he can't move on normal land. You've got to use lakes for transportation. Now, of course, there are more abilities to talk about, things like Curse or Protection, so I don't want to spoil everything. In fact, let's talk about how you can get in on the beta of Faeria. On September 15th, they'll be launching the next beta event. You can get a key by signing up on the official site here. Once you've signed up, feel free to check out the forums, subscribe to the YouTube Faeria channel, or check out our group on DeviantArt. They've also got a Facebook and Twitter. And here in the next few weeks, the Faeria Kickstarter will also go live. If you're curious about what new features the devs are going to implement with a Kickstarter cache, or simply want to show your support, make sure to stop by. Personally, I'd like to see a spectator mode that you can record and also has the ability to turn off UI elements during the replay. That way, not only can people watch the replays of their matches, but role players will be able to use that footage to create battle scenes for their own personal stories. However, if Faeria isn't your thing, but you still want to see it succeed, then might I suggest flooding your favorite YouTuber's inbox with requests to cover it? I hear Total Biscuit likes challenging games. Anywho, I hope to see you guys in game, and thanks for stopping by.